It's with a heavy heart that I'm writing this. Seriously, I've never really considered how much a human heart weighed before holding one in my hand. It makes sense, I suppose. It's like a big old flesh knot of muscles and sinew, after all. Squeezing it repeatedly did nothing to relieve me of the nerve-wracking stress, though. Just a little FYI for you there. It did stain my suit something fierce, though, but it was already covered in gallons of violently green vomit, making me, in essence, a walking piece of utterly tasteless abstract art. Some TMI in that FYI there, but I'm a DIY kind of guy, if you catch my drift. Mr. Harris, Mrs. Williams shrieked hysterically. What have you done? She stood in the doorway, pale as an albino ghost, eyes wide with shock. And I couldn't for the life of me stop squeezing her daughter's freshly severed heart. Muscle memory or something. I said, nervous glances cast at the blood-dripping heart. I think I've messed up big time. Let's rewind just a little bit though, because I'm getting ahead of myself. In medias res, they call it. You know, when you drop the reader right smack in the middle of the story, like some kind of deranged lunatic. Always found that to be a cop-out. It needs a little build-up, you know. Nail some pieces of flesh onto the skeleton of your narrative. It doesn't need to be fresh. Just need to hang around long enough for the story to make sense. I sat down with Mrs. Williams in her vast countryside estate earlier that day. Our initial correspondence having been conducted solely via use of email. My mails kept ending up in her spam folder though, which made the whole ordeal kind of awkward. But that's what you get for choosing the email address that I have. I feel the need to clarify the name. In this context, it is simply an acronym for Coming Under My Lord, which upon closer inspection really doesn't clarify anything. So, Mrs. Williams, I said, carefully unbinding a very important looking folder. Tell me about your daughter. Susan, Mrs. Williams murmured, her pale face stained with worry and red wine. Her name is Susan. Miss Susan Williams, I noted, raising an eyebrow. Such a grandma name. I'm sorry, Mrs. Williams said, with a tone of slight annoyance. I'm just saying, ma'am, can I call you ma'am? Yes. The things, that is to say the demons, are more often than not attracted to weird frickin' names. Susan and Williams are both pretty run-of-the-mill. Just a professional observation for you. Her middle name is agoraphobia. Ah, I said, scribbling wildly in my notebook. That'll do it, I reckon. It all started about a month ago, Mrs. Williams continued, her head hung low, as if in shame or embarrassment. She started acting differently, throwing tantrums, violent outbursts, things of that nature. So out of character. She was always so sweet and gentle. Yeah, the, demons, like a clean old slate for their, demonic energy to wreak havoc in. That's why they usually target kids. Or dogs. Dogs? Oh man, yeah, heck yeah. You wouldn't believe how many Cujos I've had to put down. Put down? Anyway, I coughed, and getting up from my chair. Any chance I get to see the old spinny head? I don't know if you've caught on yet, but I have this technique where I diffuse an awkward situation by making it even more awkward, inducing a sort of overload of awkwardness. It never fails, let me tell ya. Miss Williams looked around confusedly, nodded in my general direction, and beckoned for me to follow her. Swanky old place, I noted, admiring all the precious antiques, priceless paintings, lavish marble statues, the unnecessarily large chandeliers, and the general filthy rigidness of the interior design. Old money, I'm guessing. Blood diamonds, money laundering maybe. Mrs. Williams gasped audibly and stopped, dead in her tracks. Mr. Harris, she snarled viciously. You are out of line. My apologies, man, but it's just another professional observation. You see, the demons are initially drawn to them. Insufferable people. Pardon? Despicable human beings. They're drawn to wretched souls like a leech to an eyeball. And you seem, alright, a little stuck up maybe, but nothing to write home to the infernal pits about. So I'm guessing your husband, father, dear old Grandpappy Williams maybe. Mrs. Williams snorted in contempt, turned around on the dime, and continued down the endless hallway at a rather brisk pace. Was it something that I said? I shrugged, hustling after her. We probably turned a dozen corners, sauntered by gorgeous busts of Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, and for some reason, William Defoe, before we finally stood outside Susan Agoraphobia Williams' bedroom. Mrs. Williams knocked gently 3 times and whispered a hushed, "Darling, are you awake?" A series of deep, guttural growls from within would indicate that she was. "I must warn you, Mr. Harris," Miss Williams said. "She is not herself." That's kind of the deal with demonic possessions, I noted professionally, carefully turning the doorknob. A little flashback here. My first case, 12 years ago, a sweet boy named Horgan Schmitty. I sat with him for 9 days and 8 nights, his head spinning in the old 360 constantly, like some unstoppable human carousel or something. He would vomit and crap too. Classic possession really, except that's where these similarities with the movies end. Well, there's also the incessant cursing and messed up blaspheming, but we'll get to that. Anyway, little Horgan, rest in pieces, soon started bursting at the seams. That's what happens when the head spinning in 0G runs rampant. You gotta control that stuff. Although turned to minced meat sooner than you can say, the power of Christ compels you. Unclean spirit born from the rotting nether womb. "I'll screw you and your God in the butt," Horgan growled. "Hey, not cool, man," I said, waving my crucifix around theatrically. "Not cool." "In the butt." I'm not ashamed to say that I let out a rather high-pitched shriek as Horgan's head flew off the body, the bloody thing rolling to a full stop mere inches from my feet. For some reason, I guess maybe instinct, I gave it a forceful kick, and I could do nothing but watch as it soared through the room, crashed through the window, and landed in the middle of the Schmitty's neighbor's lawn. Imagine having to explain that to the boss. The point is, I've since learned to expect everything when dealing with the dark presence, but nothing, I repeat nothing, could have prepared me for what was waiting for me in that godforsaken bedroom. A quick peek, a muffled scream, some vomit to my mouth, and then a quick decision to slam the door shut again. "Mr. Harris," Miss Williams placed a hand on my shoulder. "Are you alright?" Yes," I muttered. That's a stage 5 demonic possession." Pardon? I've actually never seen one before. You can tell by how the child has grown multiple spider-like appendages, some of which have heads of their own." "I told you, Mr. Harris," Miss Williams said. "She is not herself." "Yeah, you weren't kidding." I brushed away her hand, stabilizing myself against the wall. "So, right, I just need a moment here. Well, we haven't gotten all day. Her father will be home soon, and I would very much like to have this sorted before then." "You are insufferable, aren't you?" I whispered under my breath. "What was that?" "I'm gonna need full discretion on this, ma'am. Loose reins. When I go into that room, all bets are off. It's me against those demons. Do you understand?" Miss Williams nodded hesitantly. "I understand. You have my permission to do whatever it takes to liberate my daughter from that wretched thing." Famous last words that. I sent her on her way, explaining that I needed some privacy to conduct a thorough research of the subject and decide on the details of my exorcistic approach. In reality, though, I couldn't risk her eavesdropping on us. "Susan?" I queried gently, turning the doorknob yet again. It's me, I'm Thomas Harris, and I'm here to help you get better. Ah. The 5 heads encircling the hovering body of Susan, Agoraphobia Williams, growled in unison. The Black Father. The sight of her was enough to send me sprawling to the floor, heaving for my breath. I've been scared out of my mind before, you know. It comes with the territory, I guess, but nothing quite like this. She was hovering in midair over her bed, a classic white nightgown draped across a rotting body, head snapped at an awkward angle. 5 jet black appendages, all spindly and hairy and horrible as heck, protruded from her abdomen, at the end of which were 5 mangled and misshapen heads. They looked kind of like what you would expect a human head split down the middle would look like. You know, all skin and flesh flapping around an exposed brain, eyes dangling down the sides from worm-like tendrils. Shh, I murmured, face buried in a rather expensive carpet. The monster might still hear us. A bit of backstory is required here. I do apologize though. I really didn't plan this post beforehand. Thus, I'm kind of all over the place with my narrative design. It all makes sense in the end though. Scout's honor. It all started with my grandmother, Winona Petroluma Harris, a heartless hag, a voice like a pig mid-slaughter, but a blood relative all the same. In any case, she truly despised my grandpa, Bertrand, and as such, she made it her life's mission to have him murdered. I can respect that, you know. We've all been there. We don't all sleep around with demons to make it happen though. Long story short, there is a very real chance that I've got some demon blood in me, and my family has been working for the Netherlords ever since. Me? I'm what you call the Black Father. It's a cool title for an utterly crap job. In essence, I'm little but a glorified babysitter, posing as a man of the cloth, an exorcist, to ensure that the possessed host survives the demonic transformation. We are Legion, the head hissed, and we are many. We will not hold our tongues. Legion? I asked. There's like barely a handful of you. Silence. Right, I mumbled, staggering to my feet. The point is, you're killing the host. She won't survive it. That is your problem, Father. All I'm asking is, I dared a quick glance at one of the heads, but immediately regretted it. That you, slow down, you know. Denied, the heads growled, instantly erupting in violent fountains of projectile vomit, the majority of which was aimed in my general direction. I took quite a few gallons to my suit, and the increasing pressure of unparalleled upchuck quickly sent me back to the floor, kneeling before the regurgitating Legion. It was almost ripe for the pocketing by the looks of it. That's when the demon fully emerges, ripping the human host in pieces, as the dark presence squeezes all the way from hell into our reality. As long as the host lives through the initial stages, it's all good. But if the child or dog should die before that, well, let's just say that demons don't enjoy being half in and half out. Fine, I said. Just a few more minutes and you should be good. I'll just drag her down, strap her to the bed maybe, restrain those G-forces and all that. Acceptable. I kept my eyes on the ground as I slowly made my way toward the bed. The drip 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 of vomit and other bodily fluids the only sound in the room. I reached out an arm blindly, soon enough grabbing a hold of Susan's right ankle. I proceeded to drag her down to the bed, strapped her down using the bed sheets, and took a few steps back. And then I heard her, "Thomas," an inhuman voice emerging from Susan's throat uttered, "They're lying to you." I would recognize that voice anywhere. It sounded exactly like a pig mid-slaughter. "Grandma?" I mumbled, staring at the girl in utter perplexity. The squirming heads danced back and forth in the air hypnotically, but they seemed strangely distant. Susan's body had started convulsing in jarring spasms, and I knew that we didn't have much time before she would pop. "I don't have much time, Thomas," Grandma explained. "I can't hold them back for long. We've been had, my boy. You're not of Satan's bloodline. None of you are. And they won't spare you." It's a lot to take in there, Grandma. I'm not sure that I follow. "The Legion is the start. Thomas, you imbecile. He is coming. And he'll wear your sack of crap like a necktie if you don't stop him." Stop him how? "Take the child out for a start. Take her heart." Mom, it sounds a bit extreme, bordering on insane. "Oh, I'm so sorry, Thomas. Is it too much? Do you find the prospect of hurting a child to save the world to be a step too far?" I mean, yes. "Well, forget your feelings, Thomas. It's the only way. But you have to do it right now." "Frick's sake, Grams," I murmured, digging around in my suitcase for my ceremonial dagger. "Enough!" The 5 heads suddenly boomed, the sonic outburst causing me to stumble back confusedly. "We will not be deceived." A little bit too late there, Legion, I grinned, pointing at the dagger sticking out of the child's heart. "I guess it's limbo life for you lads." "Man, pass it." The heads, along with the spindly appendages, oozed black pus and slime for a split second, before turning to mushy flesh goop before my eyes. After swallowing some emerging upchuck, I quickly leapt toward the body of Susan Agoraphobia Williams and carved out her still-beating heart, just like sweet old Grams had instructed. "This is so messed up," I whispered to myself, squeezing the heart deliriously like it was a squishy old stress ball. "Mr. Harris!" Miss Williams shrieked hysterically. "What have you done?" And here we are then, back to the beginning of my riveting tale. A full circle, as it were. Masterful storytelling, if I do say so myself. Moving on then, I gently handed Susan's heart over to her mother. Poor thing, still pale as an albino ghost in the doorway. I gotta say though, man, I've done some messed up stuff in my line of work, no doubt, but nothing quite like that. "We're coming for you, Black Father," Miss Williams whispered into my ear as we awkwardly parted ways. "And we're gonna get you and your god in the butt." Not cool, man. Not cool.